Come avevo detto nell'introduzione, ci sono due possibili visioni su come si possa fare una moneta unica. Una presuppone l'unione politica e l'altra ritiene che la moneta unica si debba fare tra paesi che non abbiano bisogno di un'unione politica. E questo viene fuori con chiarezza nell'intervento di Bolkestein, il quale dice non ci sono le condizioni per un'unione politica e se ci fossero le condizioni per un'unione politica, questo vorrebbe dire un trasferimento di risorse da un paese all'altro che creerebbe altri problemi. E quindi c'è l'idea che l'euro sia stato un passo azzardato dal quale in una maniera o nell'altra bisogna uscire. Questa mi pare sinteticamente l'analisi. Adesso darei la parola a Alberto Bagnai, che in un certo senso è all'origine di tutto questo, di questa riunione. Non dell'euro. No, l'euro ha dato luogo a Bagnai e Bagnai ha dato luogo a tutto questo. Prego.
Non c'è bisogno di un secondo applauso, grazie. It's really a difficult task to have to say something after such a distinguished economist who also had so important political offices and roles in, I may say, in the building of the European Union. Fritz Bolkestein is well known for having contributed to the liberalization of the internal market, and I'm not well known for teaching market failures in my economic policy course. So we don't have exactly the same approach, but what I never expected, and this is the reason why I always praise the euro, is to meet and to exchange ideas with a person which was so far from my point of view. Well, this having been said, after telling to the people who possibly are interested, I will tell that in Italian, we have another very liberal economist here, which is Riccardo Puglisi, e all'uscita troverete al prezzo di 0,99 centesimi i San Pietrini per lapidarlo, eventualmente, lui lo sa. Anyway, so just that was my praise of tolerance. My approach to manage this difficult task is not to use my words, but to use the words of distinguished economists, some of which are close friends to Brigitte Granville. Let's begin with one market, one money. 1991, it was the impartial, rigorous, and scientific document written by economists paid by the European community in order to demonstrate in a rigorous, scientific and impartial way that the political decision that had already been taken by the European leaders was right. I always say that if people pay me enough, I will convince them that the euro is right. Unfortunately, I was not there at that time, so I'm still poor. Let's use the word of Jean Pisani-Ferry. A major effect of economic and monetary union is that balance of payments constraints will disappear in the way they are experienced in international relations. Private markets, the markets in which we have different degrees of belief, the markets, private markets, will finance all viable borrowers, and hopefully only them. And savings and investment balances will no longer be constraints at the national level. Oh, what a wonderful word. Some years ago, some years thereafter, this was in 1991. Now, have a look at the speech Vitor Constancio, the vice governor of ECB, held in Athens last year. As we know, credit was not perfectly optimized by rational private agents. I never met a Portuguese with such a deep sense of understatement, but this is, by the way, I would expect that from Christopher, who is going to moderate the next session, but he comes from the cities, he comes from London. Well, they did not perfectly, they did not perfectly optimize. On the demand side, pay attention, so on the side of those who were asking for credit, in an environment of low interest rates, I had another sentence. You remember that the low interest rates were supposed to be the main benefit of the euro. In an environment of low interest rates, consumers and firms, anticipating future growth, because they were rational, front-loaded consumption and investment like good intertemporal optimizers. What is Vitor Constancio saying? That default is not with the people who take the money. He's saying an interesting, on the supply side of the credit market, so on the side of banks, European banks and financial markets did not perform according to the theory in managing credit risk. For sure, it's not a communist economist, this one. It was this that then led to overheating, wage and price pressures, losses of competitiveness, and high current account deficits. Quindi, summing up, Vitor Constancio tells us that the crisis is the result of a massive private market failure. Let's turn to Jean Pisani-Ferry Reloaded. Sudden stops in the euro area, written by Silvia Merler, with which I had a very nice row in my blog, and Jean Pisani-Ferry. European Monetary Union involved from the outset many known unknowns and a few unknowns. What a genius. What a genius. And if you only knew how much he's paid for talking like that, Brigitte knows that, you would understand what a genius is this man. The possibility that countries within the monetary union would experience balance of payment crisis belonged to the latter category. So to the category of the unknowns. And there is an explanation for that. Why? Because conventional wisdom in research, conventional wisdom in research sounds a bit odd to me. What do you think, Peter? What do you think, Brigitte? What do you think, Antonio? What do you think? So all the economic professional, Costas, Claudio, is research the field of conventional wisdom? What the hell is saying this guy? And he's saying that on a working paper of the Bruegel Institute, who has a lot of money from the European Union, much more than I had to organize this conference. So it's envy that let me point out these minor inconsistencies in the approach of this distinguished colleague. The possibility that countries within the monetary union belong to the conventional wisdom in research and policy was that among euro area countries, balance of payments would become as irrelevant as among regions within a country, which means basically that importing a submarine in Greece from Germany would be like importing a camembert in Provence from Normandy. This is my example. Yet, there is an adverb, fortunately. Yet, developments since 2009 have challenged the wisdom of this view. Yes, it was quite unwise, isn't it? Well, now, that was the conventional wisdom, but that's not true, unfortunately. So Jean Pisani-Ferry is, I would not say he's a liar, but something like that. Listen, for instance, what said Tony Thirlwall in 1991 in the Financial Times, a few months after the study by Jean Pisani-Ferry, Emerson, and Daniel Gross. We should not forget Daniel Gross, which is another close friend of, well, I won't say of whom. Anyway, Tony Thirlwall said, those who say balance of payments problems would disappear, listen, no, I would like to take this a bit earlier. Does this mean that if Britain joined a European monetary union with a single currency, its balance of payments difficulties would vanish overnight? He asked this question. Please pay attention to the fact that Britain had balance of payment difficulties, which is, by the way, the reason why it was attacked and it was forced to leave the monetary snake in the 70s and to leave the EMS in the 90s. We are not the black sheep among the European monies. There are also other weak monies or better managed monies, or I don't know. It is true that there would be no exchange rate to defend. Yes, we don't have to defend today our exchange rate against Germany. But there would still be imbalances between exports and imports, which would not be naturally or easily put right by private lending and investment, or by interregional fiscal transfers in a federal union, which is exactly the point that was made by Fritz right now. So, market, if you hinder the functioning, so what's basically the message? If you hinder the functioning of the currency market, private financial market would not necessarily fill the gap, and there would not necessarily be a political will to fill the gaps and the imbalances through politically directed and decided transfers. What's my point, beside hiding me after the words of so many important colleagues? My point is that you can believe in the market or not, but at any rate, distorting it by hindering the functioning of such an important price as the exchange rate is always a huge and terrible mistake. And if even we were to believe that the current situation could be adjusted in some ways by distorted market mechanisms like the internal devaluation, I think that anybody here, and also outside this room, if our message was able to go outside these walls, should never accept that an adjustment occurs at the human and social costs that were documented by Matteo documentary on Greece. And that's what I would like to tell you.